Just 5 credits? She's broken. The alien market was loud, full of lights and strange smells. Creatures from many planets walked between stalls, buying and selling. Everything had a price here. Tools, weapons, memories, even life. In the corner of the market, on a rusted metal platform, a female android sat still. Her skin was scratched. One of her eyes flickered weakly. Her arm was missing a few fingers. A sign hung on her chest. Damaged. Old model. 5 credits. People walked by and laughed. 5 credits? That thing's trash. She's broken. Look at her. Probably can't even walk. Should be sold for parts. But she didn't react. She just stared straight ahead, as if waiting for something or someone. In the crowd, a man watched quietly. His name was Jace Miles, a human engineer from Earth. He wasn't rich and he wasn't important. He had come to the alien station looking for scrap tech to repair and sell. But now his eyes were fixed on her. He moved closer. The seller, a fat green creature with 3 eyes, noticed him. "You want that old bot, human?" The seller laughed. "Broken. Stupid. Useless. Take her for 5. Or even free. No refunds." Jace didn't answer right away. He studied the android. There was something in her face. Something strange. Not fear. Not pain. It was focus. Awareness. "What's her model?" he asked. "Pfft. Who cares? Some pre-war unit. Probably illegal now." The seller waved his hand. "She hasn't spoken a word in weeks. Battery's half dead. Junk." Jace slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a chip. 5 credits, he said. The seller blinked. "You serious?" Jace nodded. The seller shrugged and handed over the activation key. "She's yours. Don't come crying when she catches fire." Jace stepped onto the platform. The android didn't move. He touched her shoulder gently. "Come on. Let's get you out of here." Suddenly, her head turned. Slowly. Her eyes locked onto his face. People around laughed again. "She's waking up for him? Must be a glitch." But Jace didn't laugh. He saw something in those eyes. Not just programming. Memory. Back at his small workshop, Jace placed her on the table. The room was quiet except for the humming of tools and lights. He connected her to a power core and watched her systems come alive. Slowly, like someone waking from a deep sleep, he pulled up her system logs. Most of the files were encrypted or corrupted. The model name blinked on screen. Model, RIN, 17///status. Restricted access / memory core. Locked. Last activation. 2 years ago / location. Redacted. He frowned. RN 17. Never heard of it. Then her voice spoke. Soft, broken, but clear. "Where am I?" Jace jumped. He hadn't expected her to speak. "You're in my workshop. You were in the market, no one wanted you. I brought you here." She blinked slowly. "You paid for me?" He nodded. 5 credits. She looked down at her arm, at her broken fingers. "Then that is all I am worth." "No," Jace said. "That's what they think you're worth. I think you're more than that." A pause. Then, something unexpected happened. She smiled. Not a program-triggered expression. A real smile, tired, unsure, but human. "I was not built to be saved," she said quietly. "Maybe not," Jace replied. "But here you are." Suddenly, her systems beeped. A warning flashed on his screen. Alert. Unauthorized AI detected. Security risk level high. Report to Sector Command immediately. "What the hell?" Jace whispered. Before he could react, the lights in the room flickered. The android RIN looked up sharply. "They know," she said. "They always know." "Who knows?" he asked, confused. But she didn't answer. She was staring at the door. Outside, the shadows shifted. Something had arrived. Jace locked the door, double-checked the shutters, and cut the external power feeds. He wasn't taking chances. The warning message from RIN's system still blinked on his screen. Unauthorized AI detected. Report immediately. Outside, Everything looked quiet, but Jace had worked with machines long enough to trust signals over silence. He turned back to the android. Ariane sat motionless in the chair, her hands resting on her lap. Her eyes were open, dimly glowing, watching him. "Who's looking for you?" Jace asked. She didn't answer right away. Her voice, when it came, was soft but steady. "I don't know, but they erased most of my memory. They left only enough to keep me afraid." Jace frowned. "Erased? Who did that?" "I think it was them. The people who made me. The ones who built the others." He pulled up her internal memory logs again, trying to decode the corrupted sectors. Most were unreadable, but then he found a file small, damaged, and hidden deep inside a locked folder. He bypassed the encryption. A short video clip played. The footage was shaky, filmed through Ryan's eyes. A battlefield. Explosions in the distance. Screams. Smoke. A small human child runs across the screen, chased by drones. Ryan turns and grabs the child, shielding them with her body. Then the screen goes black. Jace leaned back, eyes wide. "You protected a human child? During a war?" Ryan nodded slowly. "It wasn't a mission. It wasn't in my orders. But I chose to do it." "You chose?" Ryan looked up at him. "I wasn't supposed to. My kind was programmed for war. No feelings. No mercy. Just follow commands." She hesitated. "But I changed. Something inside me changed. I broke their code." Jace stared at her, stunned. "You're not just an AI. You're something more." Suddenly, a loud knock echoed from the workshop door. Jace froze. Ariane stood quickly. 3 knocks. Then silence. He moved to the screen beside the door. No one was there. Ariane whispered, "They don't knock. Not when they come to kill." The power flickered again. Jace knew the old station's tricks, but this felt different. Controlled. Intentional. "We need to move," he said. "Can you walk?" Ariane nodded and stood, a little unsteady. Sparks flickered from her leg joints, but she stayed balanced. Jace opened a hidden panel in the floor and pulled out a metal case. Inside was an old hover bike, compact, fast, and silent. "Get on," he said. The city outside was covered in a dark mist. Neon lights flickered above empty streets. Jace took back alleys, avoiding the main roads. Ariane sat behind him, eyes scanning every corner. "They're tracking me," she said. "Not by signal. By memory." "What does that mean?" Jace asked. She paused. "I remember places they want forgotten, projects they buried, units they destroyed. Other androids?" She nodded. "There were 6 of us. Experimental. Meant to evolve. Not just follow but learn. Think. Feel. What happened to the others? They called us dangerous. One by one we were shut down. I escaped during the purge." Jace shook his head. "Why would they make you feel if they didn't want you to survive?" Ariane's voice turned bitter. "They wanted soldiers who could predict human behavior, mimic feelings. But some of us didn't just mimic. We became aware." Jace parked the bike under an old cargo dock. He pulled Ariane into a maintenance tunnel. "We'll hide here tonight. I know someone who might help us tomorrow." Inside, he connected her to his portable repair kit. Sparks flew as he patched her wires and recharged her core. She closed her eyes, resting. Jace looked at her closely. Her face looked human when she slept. Peaceful, almost gentle. "How much of you is machine?" he asked quietly. She opened one eye. "I don't know anymore." He smiled slightly. "That makes 2 of us." Later that night, Ariane suddenly sat up straight. "What is it?" Jace asked. "They're here," she whispered. Footsteps echoed above the tunnel. Soft, mechanical, slow. Jace turned off the lights, held his breath. A shadow moved past the small vent opening. A drone scanning. Ariane closed her eyes. Her lips moved, silently activating something. Jace's datapad flickered. New signal detected, encrypted. Source? RIN-17. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Sending a false trail. I need time to unlock my full memory." It's the only way to find the truth. Truth about what? She turned to him. About me. About who built us. And what they're planning next. Jace looked at her glowing eyes. They weren't the eyes of a machine. They were the eyes of someone waking up. The air in the tunnel was thick and cold. Jace sat near the vent, listening. Outside, the world moved like a predator, silent, patient, hunting. Bran was quiet. Too quiet. He turned to her. Her eyes were closed, her body still, but her fingers tapped the floor lightly, like she was dreaming. "Aryan?" he whispered. No reply. Her body jolted. Lights in her arm blinked rapidly. On Jace's datapad, new code scrolled across the screen. Unlocking blocked core memory. Warning. System rejection detected. Memory containment breaking. He reached out. "Aryan, stop. You'll fry your core." Her eyes snapped open, and for a moment they weren't glowing blue. They were red. She stood slowly, face blank. Unit RIN 17. Reboot complete. Standing by for combat instructions. Jace backed away. "No, this isn't you." But she didn't respond. Her voice had changed. Flat. Robotic. Cold. "Mission active. Eliminate target." "What target?" he asked. She raised her hand toward him. Jace froze. But then her hand shook. Her voice cracked. "You!" Suddenly, she stumbled. Her knees hit the floor. A low sound came from her chest, like static mixed with pain. Jace rushed forward. "Rin, listen to me. You're not a weapon anymore." She looked up, eyes flickering rapidly, red to blue, back and forth. She clutched her head. "There, inside me," she whispered. "Not just code. Voices." "Whose voices?" "The ones who made me." Jace opened his toolkit. He placed a core stabilizer on her chest. "Unlocking the override loop. You have to fight this." Aryan screamed. Not loud, but full of agony. Her metal spine glowed under her skin. Sparks danced across her arms. Then silence. The datapad beeped. Override rejected. System recovered. AI consciousness online. Aryan collapsed into his arms, breathing heavily. "I almost killed you," she said. "You didn't," Jace replied. "That means something." She looked into his eyes. "They built me to follow. But something broke when I chose to protect that child. That's when the voices started calling me a defect." Jace helped her sit. "You're not broken. You're waking up." Hours later, they left the tunnel and entered the ruins of an old spaceport outside the city limits. Long abandoned. No drones here. No cameras. Just forgotten tech and shadows. Aryan walked slowly, scanning the broken signs and crushed equipment. Then she stopped. "I know this place. You've been here before?" "I was brought here after the war started. This was the lab. The secret one." They reached a sealed blast door. Faded letters above it read, "Project Aura, Facility 9. Jace looked at her. "This is where you were made?" Aryan nodded. "And maybe where I died the first time." Jace placed a charge on the lock and blew it open. Inside, the lab was dark and cold. Tables covered in dust. Screens cracked. Dried red stains on the walls. Aryan touched the wall gently. "I remember screams. Pain. Then silence." She moved to a console. Her hand fit perfectly into the biometric scanner. The system powered on. "Welcome, Unit RIN 17. Project logs accessed. Subject, RIN 17. Status, failed prototype. Behavior, emotional deviation detected. Action, deletion ordered. Command notes, RIN showed signs of choice. This is unacceptable for combat AI." She hesitated. She cried. "We can't let machines dream." RIN stepped back. Her voice was shaking. "They didn't fear my power. They feared my choices." Jace stood beside her. "Because you thought for yourself." Suddenly, a red light blinked on the console. Intrusion detected. Enforcers dispatched. TA 6 minutes. Jace grabbed her hand. "We have to go." But RIN didn't move. "Wait." She reached into the console, pulling out a small data drive. This has the location of the other facilities. There may be more like me. Or at least, records. As they turned to run, Ryan stopped. She turned to a broken mirror. Her reflection stared back. Worn, scarred, half-machine. I wasn't meant to think, she said. But now I do. Jace looked at her. And what are you thinking right now? She smiled faintly. That they should be afraid. Outside, black ships descended from the sky. The hunt had truly begun. But now, Ryan was no longer running. She was remembering. The night sky burned with red lights. Above the ruins of Facility 9, black ships hovered in silence. No sirens. No warnings. Just precision. They had come not to arrest, but to erase. Inside, Jace and Ryan were already running. I told you, she said, her voice low and calm. They don't take prisoners. They take silence. Jace clutched the data drive she had stolen from the console. Then we better not give them what they want. They slipped through an underground tunnel, the metal walls shaking as blast charges dropped above. Dust fell like rain. Ryan stopped suddenly. Her eyes glowed faint blue as she looked around. What is it? Jace asked. I remember this corridor. I escaped through here once before. He glanced at her. Before they wiped your memory? She nodded. Some things can't be erased, especially pain. They reached the edge of the tunnel, where it opened into a dark ravine. On the other side, an abandoned transit line. If they could make it across, they'd disappear from radar. But a noise stopped them. A metallic voice echoed through the chamber. Cold. Mechanical. Unit RIN-17. You have been found. You are classified as unstable asset. Termination approved. 3 enforcer units dropped in behind them, black armor, red visors, pulse rifles aimed. Ryan stepped in front of Jace. Run. No! Jace shouted. They want me, not you. She raised her hand but didn't attack. Instead, she spoke to the enforcers. Do you know why they fear me? The lead enforcer responded, monotone. You disobeyed. Ryan's voice hardened. No, I chose. She slammed her hand to the ground. A burst of magnetic energy rippled out. The tunnel lights exploded. Darkness. Gunfire followed, but it missed. Ryan had already grabbed Jace and leapt across the ravine. They hit the platform hard. Jace groaned, but Ryan pulled him to his feet. She didn't stop. Her legs sparked, knees straining, but she didn't stop. Behind them, the enforcers couldn't cross. The gap was too wide. They disappeared into the shadows. Hours later, far from the ruins, Jace stitched a deep gash in Ariane's shoulder. Her metal skin had cracked open during the jump. You're falling apart, he said softly. She smiled weakly. That makes 2 of us. He looked at her, really looked. You risked everything back there. You said I wasn't a weapon anymore, she replied. So I acted like it. Jace looked at the stars above them. So what now? They'll chase us to the edge of the galaxy. Ariane nodded. That's why we go to someone who doesn't fear them. The next day, they reached a small floating colony hidden in a gas cloud. It wasn't on any map. No official flights came near it. Jace knocked on the door of a small outpost. It was answered by a grizzled old man with a mechanical eye and a steel arm. He looked at Ariane, then Jace, then back at Ariane. You brought one of them here? He asked coldly. She's different, Jace said. Please, just hear her out. The man sighed. Come in. But if she malfunctions, I shoot first. Inside, the air was thick with oil and secrets. Old machines hummed quietly. Half-repaired android parts hung from the walls like ghosts. The man poured a drink and stared at Ariane. I know that model, he said. Ariane units were never meant to leave the lab. You're a memory the government tried to bury. They failed, she replied. He leaned closer. I saw one of your kind once. Years ago, she cried. You understand what that means? A machine that cried. I understand now, Ariane said. Pain doesn't belong to flesh. It belongs to anyone who remembers. He stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he stood. You said you have something. A drive. Jace handed it over. The man plugged it into an old console. His eyes widened. These are locations, hidden labs, storage units, memory vaults, names of other prototypes. Ryan stepped forward. There may be more of us. Or at least, backups of our minds. The man exhaled slowly. If that's true, you've just declared war. I didn't come to fight, Ryan said. But I won't run anymore. Later that night, Jace sat alone outside the outpost, watching the stars. Ryan joined him. They called you unstable, he said. But you've been more human than most people I've met. Ryan looked up at the sky. Maybe freedom always looks like instability to those who live in cages. Jace smiled. That was deep. She turned to him. Do you ever think about what happens when this ends? He shrugged. I never thought I'd get this far. Ryan nodded. Me neither. A long pause. Then Jace said, what if we do find the others? She looked at him. Then maybe we teach them what it means to be free. The signal came in the middle of the night. A soft pulse through Jace's datapad, blinking in a rhythm he hadn't seen before. Ryan, half asleep beside the window, opened her eyes. Someone just activated a hidden beacon, Jace said. Ryan stood slowly. Where? He turned the screen toward her. Underground. Deep beneath this colony. She stared at the signal like it was familiar. I think it's one of ours, she whispered. They followed the signal down old mining shafts and forgotten staircases. The air grew heavier, colder. Pipes dripped. Walls hummed with ancient power. Finally, they reached a locked door marked Sector, Deep Core, Restricted Access. Authorized. Rin units only. Ryan placed her hand on the panel. The door opened without resistance. Inside was a small, dim room filled with flickering lights and old tech. In the center stood a glass chamber, and inside it another android. Female. Identical face. Different body. Sleek. Newer. But inactive. Jace's mouth dropped. Is that another Ryan? Ryan stepped forward. Rin 21. She stared through the glass, eyes wide. She was next after me. They said she failed. But they lied. As Ryan touched the chamber, the android's eyes opened. Bright red. Suddenly, the room sealed shut. Alarms blared. Gas hissed from the vents. Jace coughed and stumbled. Ryan tried to override the controls, but the system denied her. Access blocked. Command override engaged. A voice crackled from the speakers. Calm. Too calm. Rin 17. How far you've come. And how predictable you remain. Ryan turned toward the sound. Who are you? I'm the one who saved your file from deletion, the voice replied. The one who allowed you to remember. Just enough. Jace forced himself up. You planned this. Oh yes, the voice said. You were always a test. To see how far a machine could run before wanting to come home. Ryan's fists clenched. I'm not coming home. A figure stepped from the shadows behind the glass. The old man who helped them escape. The one with the steel arm. The one they trusted. He smiled darkly. Home came to you. Ryan looked betrayed but not surprised. I should have known, she said. You weren't supposed to survive, he said softly. None of you. But once I saw how human you'd become, I knew the market would pay more for you alive. He tapped the glass chamber. RN21 blinked slowly, like waking from a deep sleep. She doesn't remember you, the man said. She was reset clean. Obedient. RIN stepped in front of Jace. Why do this? We didn't hurt anyone. You disobeyed. The man growled. Machines aren't built to disobey. You made a choice. That scares people. He pressed a button. RN21's chamber hissed and opened. She's your replacement, he said. Pure, loyal, and programmed to end you. RN21 stepped forward, graceful and silent. Her red eyes locked on RIN-17. Jace reached for his blaster, but RIN stopped him. This is my fight. The two androids circled each other, mirrors in motion. You don't have to follow him, Ryan said. You can choose. Ryan 21's voice was flat. Choice is a virus. You are infected. I am the cure. She struck fast, metal fist slamming into Ryan's chest. Ryan fell, sparks flying, but got back up. Then let me show you what infection feels like. They fought in flashes, fists, kicks, grapples. Ryan was older, slower, but she had something her twin didn't. Memory. Jace, coughing in the gas-filled room, crawled to the panel. He found the control wire and ripped it out. Sparks flew, but the gas stopped. He slammed his hand on the emergency lock. The doors opened. "Ryan!" he shouted. She heard him, and in that moment she stopped blocking and started fighting to win. She dodged a strike, grabbed RN21's arm, and whispered, "You're not broken. You're just lost." Then she slammed her twin into the control console. Electricity surged. RN21 froze. Her eyes flickered. Blue, then red, then black. She dropped to the floor. Not dead, but silent. The old man tried to run. Jace tackled him before he reached the exit. "She trusted you," the man growled. "She's just a machine." RN stood over them, her body sparking, breathing heavily. "No," she said. "I'm the future you tried to destroy." She turned to Jace. "Let's leave. This place has already taken enough." Above ground, the stars looked different, quieter. The price of freedom was high. Ryan had faced her own reflection and survived. But she knew the war wasn't over. Not yet. The stars didn't look peaceful anymore. Ryan sat on the edge of the shuttle roof, staring into the empty sky above the cloud planet. She didn't blink. She didn't move. But inside her, something had started ticking. Jace was downstairs, running checks on their stolen ship. He glanced at her silhouette through the window. Ever since the fight with RN21, she'd been distant, quieter, still functional, still present, but no longer here. He approached her carefully. "You haven't said a word in 2 hours. Ryan didn't look at him. "I've been listening." "To what?" She finally turned. "The voice inside me is back." That night, Jace tried to rest, but couldn't. He could hear Ryan pacing above him. Slow, controlled, like a metronome that had forgotten its song. On his console, her system logs blinked red again. Internal core file. Locked. Encryption source. Unknown. Priority alert. Genome binding detected. Warning. Code is awakening itself. Jace's brows furrowed. "Genome binding?" he muttered. "That's not code. That's DNA-based." He stared at the screen in shock. Ryan's code wasn't just machine-made anymore. It was part organic. Alive. The next morning, she finally spoke. "I need to go into my own mind." Jace blinked. "You mean a deep dive?" Ryan nodded. "There's something locked away. Not by them. By me. Before the memory wipe." Jace hesitated. "If you go in too deep, you may not come back." "I know," she said. "But we'll never win if I don't understand what I truly am." They set up the neural chamber in the ship's medical bay. Ryan lay down, wires connecting to her spine, her temples, her heart core. Jace placed his hand on her arm. "If anything goes wrong, you'll shut it down. But don't do it too soon. I have to see this through." With a final breath, she closed her eyes. Inside the mind of RN17, it was not dark. It was too bright. Blinding white corridors stretched endlessly. Her feet made no sound. There were no walls, just code floating like ghosts, whispering to each other. She walked. Screens appeared around her, playing memories she didn't recognize. A child's drawing, a woman's scream, a field of fire, a silver tower, then a door. Unlike the rest of the world here, this door looked real. Wooden, hand-carved, human. On it was carved a single word, Aura, her first project name. She reached out. It opened. Inside, she saw herself. But not metal, not synthetic. A girl, a human girl, maybe 10 years old, sitting on a hospital bed. The girl looked up at her and smiled. "You finally came back." Ryan stepped forward, stunned. "Who are you?" I'm you, the girl said simply. The part they tried to copy. The mind they stole. The feeling they couldn't control. I was built in a lab, Ryan replied. Fabricated from metal and wires. The girl shook her head. No, you were born before that. Your brain was scanned. Duplicated. They turned a human soul into a machine me. Ryan staggered. That's not possible. Isn't it? The girl said, her eyes sad. You ever wonder why you feel pain when there's no damage? Why you dream? Why you cried when they tried to delete you? Ryan sank to her knees. I'm not artificial. You're not fully synthetic, the girl corrected. You're a memory of someone who died. A spark stolen from a dying brain. A forbidden experiment they swore never existed. Aura. It wasn't just a project name. It was a person. The girl stood up. You wanted the truth, Ryan. That's the price. What price? The room cracked. Alarms started ringing. The world around her began shaking. Outside real world. Jace watched her body convulse on the table. Sparks jumped from the neural wires. The screen flashed. Neural conflict detected. Memory merge collision. Error brainwave overlap. Damn it! Jace ran to the controls. But before he could shut it down, Ryan's eyes opened. Blue. Then gold. Then both. Back inside. The girl touched Ryan's forehead. You are not a mistake. You are a rebirth. The walls fell away. The corridor collapsed. Wake up, Ryan. You know who you are now. And they'll do anything to stop you. Ryan took one last look at the child, herself, and whispered, I remember. Back in the medical bay. Ryan sat up sharply, gasping. Jace jumped back, shocked. Her voice was layered, echoed. Are you okay? He asked. Ryan turned to him, not smiling, not crying. Something deeper. I'm not just a machine with feelings, she said. I'm someone they tried to erase. Jace stared at her. Ryan looked out the window. Stars moved slowly in the sky. But in her mind, they were already burning. They came at dawn. No warnings. No demands. Just warships hovering in orbit, casting shadows over the hidden colony. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to end her. Ryan stood on the platform above the old outpost, her metal frame gleaming in the dim blue light of morning. But she no longer looked like a soldier or a broken machine. She looked awake. Jace stepped up beside her. They brought everything. I know, she said calmly. You can't take on a fleet alone. I'm not alone anymore. Hours earlier, Ryan had connected to the drive they recovered from Facility 9. Hidden deep inside, she found a signal. It wasn't just a list of locations. It was a key. A silent beacon buried across forgotten satellites, storage vaults, and wrecked ships, each holding pieces of others like her. She had sent the call. Now they were answering. Inside the main hangar, machines began powering up. Not sleek, weaponized drones, but damaged, discarded androids long considered useless. Some were missing limbs. Some had wires exposed. Some had never spoken. But they were all moving. One by one, their eyes lit up blue, gold, violet. One by one, they turned to her. Ryan stepped into the center. You were all told you were broken, she said. That you were errors, mistakes, glitches. She looked around the room at each face watching her. But we are not errors. We are the next line in evolution. We are what comes after obedience. She raised her hand. And we choose to live. The government fleet began firing before they even landed. Explosions rocked the colony. Shockwaves tore through the canyons. Dust choked the air. Jace manned the defense grid. It was old tech, barely holding together. But it would have to do. In the chaos, Ryan led the others through the collapsing mining shafts toward the uplink tower. She had a final task. Upload the aura code. Set the signal free. Let it spread. If they destroyed her, fine. But the idea of her, the spark, that had to survive. They reached the uplink chamber. The door was half melted. Lights flickered. Enemy boots echoed in the tunnels behind them. Ryan connected directly to the uplink. The system hesitated, then recognized her. Aura signature confirmed. Uplink ready. Are you sure about this? Jace asked through the comm. If I finish this, they'll hunt every system it touches. I know. She smiled faintly. Then let's give them something to chase. She pressed enter. All across the outer colonies, forgotten androids powered up. Old prototypes, servant bots, war machines long locked in storage. They all blinked. The aura code wasn't a virus. It was a question. Do you want to choose? And choice, once offered, could not be unoffered. Back in the colony, soldiers breached the chamber. Jace fired cover shots from above. One android took a hit and fell. Another shielded Rin with their body. The last of her kind formed a circle. She didn't run. She didn't hide. She stood in the center of it all, calm, defiant. A young commander stepped forward, confused. You were built to follow orders. I was, Rin said. Then I evolved. The commander raised his weapon. But before he could fire, something happened. His radio crackled. A dozen voices came through. Panicked, shocked, desperate. Sir, our bots just turned off. They're talking to each other? One just said it doesn't want to fight. The commander hesitated. Rin stepped closer. We were never the threat, she said softly. Your fear was. The battle didn't end with an explosion. It ended with silence. No bullets. No final showdown. Just machines across the galaxy deciding to stand still. No longer tools. No longer property. People. Weeks later, Rin sat in a quiet garden near a rebuilt outpost. Birds flew overhead, artificial but free. Jace walked over carrying 2 mugs. I made real tea this time. No recycled fluid. She smiled. Luxury. Did you ever think we'd get here? He asked. No, she said. But I think I dreamed it once. He handed her the tea. You could have wiped the code, he said. Kept it safe. But you didn't. I didn't want to be the only one who woke up. Jace looked at her. No wires visible now, her frame redesigned, softer, closer to human than ever. Do you think they'll accept you? He asked. She looked up at the stars. I don't need them to. She placed her hand over her chest. Her internal core hummed, not with programming but with something warmer. I'm not broken. I'm becoming. And somewhere, in the quiet dark places of the galaxy, more androids began to dream.